Right now, as you sit there watching this video, you are probably breaking a law, not a violent one, not one that harms a single person, but somewhere buried in the hundreds of thousands of regulations governing your daily life, you are in violation. And the terrifying part is you have absolutely no idea which one. Legal scholar Harvey Silverglate estimates the average American commits 3 felonies a day. 3. Not misdemeanors. 3 felonies every day. The kind that could land you in a federal prison cell. How did we get here? How did collecting rainwater, growing vegetables in your front yard, or walking through a park after sunset become criminal acts? As Cicero warned over 2,000 years ago, the more laws, the less justice. Today, we are exposing a system designed to make everyone guilty. Because when every citizen is a criminal, the question is never whether you broke the law. The question is whether they decide to come after you. The legal trap. Picture this. You wake up, brew your morning coffee, drive to work, eat lunch at your desk, and drive home. Sounds perfectly normal, right? Except you probably committed at least 5 federal violations today. That jaywalking shortcut to the parking lot, illegal in most jurisdictions. That lunch you ate at your desk while answering emails. In some states, labor regulations technically require a separate meal break, and your employer is liable. That GPS app you used while driving. Depending on your state, touching your phone for navigation counts as distracted driving. And here is the truly insane part. That rainwater barrel your neighbor recommended. In Colorado, until 2016, collecting rain that fell on your own roof was a criminal offense. Your own rain, on your own property. Growing food in your front yard. Multiple cities across America have prosecuted homeowners for planting vegetable gardens. Not drugs, vegetables. Feeding your family from your own land was treated as a crime. If the natural tendencies of mankind are so bad that it is not safe to permit people to be free, how is it that the tendencies of these organizers are always good? The absurdity is not accidental, it is architectural. And understanding why requires us to look at who decides which behaviors get punished. But that leads us to something even more disturbing. Selective justice. Here is where the system reveals its true purpose. When there are so many laws that everyone is technically a criminal, enforcement becomes a choice. Selective enforcement is the most dangerous power any government can wield. Federal prosecutors in the United States have a conviction rate of over 93%, not because they are brilliant, but because they choose who to prosecute. And when the legal code is broad enough, they can always find something. Always find something. Former NSA Director Michael Hayden once admitted that the government collects everything, not because everyone is a suspect, but because if someone becomes interesting, they can go back through the data and build a case. The surveillance state does not need you to commit a crime. It needs a library of your behavior so that when the time comes, they can pick the law that fits what you already did. This is not justice. This is a menu. The state looks at you, flips through the book, and picks a charge: political dissident, tax violation, whistleblower, espionage charges, journalist, computer fraud. The law is not a shield protecting you. It is a weapon pointed at you, and someone else decides when to pull the trigger. But how we arrived at this insane level of criminalization is a story in itself. Rule Factory. The United States Code contains roughly 54 titles covering virtually every aspect of human behavior. The Code of Federal Regulations spans over 180,000 pages, mountains of rules no human being could read in an entire lifetime. In 1925, the Federal Register was about 3,000 pages. By 2023, it exceeded 90,000. That is a 3,000% increase. Every year, Congress passes hundreds of new laws. Federal agencies issue thousands of new regulations. State legislatures pile on more. City councils add local ordinances. The machine never stops producing new ways to make you guilty. If you are starting to see the pattern here, hit like and subscribe to keep exposing what they hide, because this rabbit hole goes much deeper than you think. Criminologist Douglas Husak estimates that over 300,000 federal regulations carry criminal penalties. 300,000. Nobody knows the exact number, not even the government itself. The Congressional Research Service tried to count all federal criminal offenses and admitted they could not do it. The people writing the laws cannot even count how many laws exist, and yet you are expected to know every single one of them. That brings us to the most absurd contradiction in modern law. Know every law. There is a legal principle so fundamental that every law student learns it in their first week. Ignorantia juris non excusat. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Ignorance of the law excuses no man. Not that all men know the law, but because it is an excuse, every man will plead. That doctrine made sense when there were 10 commandments, or even when English common law had a manageable body of principles. But today, with hundreds of thousands of criminal provisions spread across millions of pages, impossible. Attorney General Robert Jackson, who later became a Supreme Court justice, admitted in 1940 that any prosecutor can find a technical violation of some law on the part of almost anyone. He said that in 1940, before the regulatory explosion, before the digital age, before the surveillance state, the law demands you know every rule while making it impossible to know them. Studies show the average professional would need over 25,000 hours just to read the regulations governing their own industry. That is 12 years of full-time reading, no breaks, no weekends, and by the time you finish, thousands of new regulations have been added. You are running on a treadmill designed to keep you in perpetual violation, and the people programming that treadmill know exactly what they are doing. Who writes rules? Here is the dirty secret that ties everything together. Most regulations are not written by elected officials. They are written by lobbyists working for the very industries being regulated. Lobbyists write your laws. This is called regulatory capture, and it is the biggest open secret in governance. The pharmaceutical industry helps draft FDA regulations that make it nearly impossible for small competitors to bring products to market. The banking sector helped write Dodd-Frank, which was supposed to prevent another financial crisis. Instead, it created compliance costs so enormous that small banks were crushed, while the biggest got even bigger. When buying and selling are controlled by legislation, the first things to be bought and sold are legislators. The corporations write the rules, and their competitors pay the price. Every new regulation costs money to comply with. Big corporations have legal departments with hundreds of lawyers. They absorb the cost. But the small business owner, the entrepreneur, they cannot afford compliance. They shut down. Or worse, they accidentally violate a regulation they never knew existed and face criminal penalties. The regulations are not protecting you from corporations. They are protecting corporations from you. This is not a modern invention. This playbook is ancient, and understanding its historical roots reveals something chilling. The old playbook. Every authoritarian regime in history understood one fundamental principle. If you control what is legal, you control the people. The best way to control the opposition is to lead it ourselves. In the Soviet Union, the criminal code was deliberately vague. Article 58 criminalized what they called counter-revolutionary activity. What did that mean? Whatever the state needed it to mean. Speaking against a policy, counter-revolutionary. Telling a joke about a leader, counter-revolutionary. Being friends with someone accused of disloyalty, also counter-revolutionary. Vague laws equal total control. Nazi Germany did the same. The law against malicious attacks on state and party criminalized any speech that could be interpreted as harmful to the regime. No specifics needed. In ancient Rome, as the empire declined, Emperor Diocletian issued the edict on maximum prices in 301 AD, setting price controls on over 1,000 goods and services. The penalty for violation: death. Today, we think being executed for charging too much for wheat sounds extreme. But the principle is identical. When the state decides what is normal, everything else becomes criminal. The scale changes, the methods evolve, but the pattern repeats with terrifying precision. And right now, that pattern has a devastating new tool at its disposal: control by law. Overcriminalization does not affect everyone equally, and that is entirely by design. 1. Vagrancy laws targeted the homeless and the poor. 2. Drug laws disproportionately penalized minority communities. 3. Immigration laws criminalized people seeking survival. 4. Licensing laws blocked mobility for the working class. Each of these categories shares a common feature: They criminalize existence rather than harm, being somewhere, possessing something, doing something that hurts nobody but is deemed unacceptable by those in power. The law punishes who you are, not what you did. Consider occupational licensing. In the 1950s, about 5% of American workers needed a government license to do their job. Today, that number exceeds 30%. You need a license to braid hair in some states, a license to arrange flowers, a license to be an interior decorator, license to braid hair. These are not public safety measures. They are barriers designed by established businesses to eliminate competition. When you criminalize lemonade stands, when children need permits to sell cookies, when a veteran cannot cut hair without thousands of hours of training, the law has stopped being about justice. It has become about control. And the next evolution of this control is unprecedented in human history. Digital dragnet. For most of history, overcriminalization had a natural check, enforcement capacity. You could have a million laws on the books, but if nobody saw you violate them, they did not matter. That natural limitation is completely gone. Every email you send is stored, every text message logged, every purchase tracked, every location recorded, every search remembered. Facial recognition cameras watch public spaces. License plate readers track your movements. Smart devices listen in your home. The surveillance infrastructure that exists today would make the Stasi weep with envy. East Germany had one informant for every 63 citizens. The digital panopticon has a sensor on every citizen, every second, everywhere. Every second, everywhere. And here is what makes this a nightmare that is already happening. Automated systems now scan your financial transactions for regulatory violations. AI reviews communications for potential offenses. Algorithms flag your behavior against thousands of regulations simultaneously. The technology to enforce every law against every person now exists. When combined with a legal code that makes everyone technically guilty, total enforcement becomes total control. Not through tanks in the streets, not through secret police. Algorithms, through automated fines, through systems that never sleep and never forget. And the psychological toll of living under this, it is devastating. Chilling effect. Legal scholars call it the chilling effect. When people know that virtually any behavior could be criminalized, they stop behaving freely. Freedom is not just the absence of chains, but the absence of the fear of chains. Self-censorship becomes automatic. You do not protest because maybe there is an ordinance against gathering without a permit. You do not speak out because maybe something you say violates some regulation somewhere. You do not start a business because the compliance burden is overwhelming. A society of sheep must in time beget a government of wolves. Psychologist Steven Pinker documented how overregulation correlates with decreased innovation and entrepreneurship. When people fear punishment for trying something new, they simply stop trying. The most dangerous prison is the one you build inside your own mind. And that is the ultimate achievement of overcriminalization. It does not need to prosecute everyone. It just needs everyone to know that prosecution is possible. Obedience. The goal was never to enforce every law. The goal was to create a population so afraid of breaking rules that they police themselves. A population that asks permission before acting, that checks regulations before thinking, that lives in a permanent state of anxiety about whether today is the day the system notices them. But here is what they do not want you to realize. The way out. The most powerful tool against overcriminalization is one that has existed for centuries, and that governments desperately want you to forget. It is called jury nullification, and it terrifies the entire system. Jury nullification means a jury can refuse to convict someone even if they technically broke the law, when the jury believes the law itself is unjust. It was used to resist the Fugitive Slave Act. It was used to resist prohibition. It is woven into the very foundation of common law. Jury power still exists, but awareness alone is not enough. When a politician proposes a new law, ask who benefits, not who the law claims to protect, who actually profits. When a regulation is proposed, look for the fingerprints of industry lobbyists. Every new rule is an opportunity for someone. Eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. Support organizations fighting regulatory reform. Vote for candidates who promise to repeal unnecessary laws, not create new ones. Question, and most importantly, refuse to internalize the guilt. You are not a criminal for living your life. The real criminals are not breaking the law. They are riding it. Remember that. We have pulled back the curtain today. We have seen how regulatory expansion turns every citizen into an unwitting criminal, how selective enforcement weaponizes that guilt, how corporations write the rules that destroy their competitors, how history warns us with the same pattern over and over again. Same pattern over again. The system is not broken. It is functioning exactly as designed, not to protect you, but to control you. The real question is what you do with this knowledge. Do you keep living in quiet compliance, hoping they never look your way? Or do you start questioning every law, every regulation, every rule that tells you how to live your own life? If you made it this far, comment selective enforcement to prove you see through the game now. In a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. Every government lies. The question is, what are they lying about? The truth is out there. You just have to follow the money. Subscribe if you want to keep digging.